Oh, look at that. Just holy shit.
Uh-huh.
Feel that? Do you feel that?
Oh, yeah.
I feel it. We're gonna do the Ron Clift lyric now.
Oh, Ron Cliff, good.
They're going to ramble, so get your geek on. It's time to ramble. There's no need to gamble. Unzip, let your nerd out. It's time to ramble. Shot. They're here to unscramble all the latest cool stuff. It's time to ramble. No need to stumble into He-Man's mother's pussy. It's time to ramble. Oof. Look at that.
Look at that.
Wow.
Look at
and remember,
that.
it's not, the song's not over to the last. Hey!
There it is.
Go.
There it is.
Welcome to another Ramble Radio right here. The Geeks Guide.
We're
to
here.
Pop culture. We're the Geeks. I'm a comedian, cancer fighter. Mangs Mang? Jerry Rocha. Right
We're also part of the Podderation Network. Let's not forget.
Part of the Podderation, but you've already heard that.
That's true. That already came in.
Bumper.
We don't need to
You
say
already had
that
the
crap
we don't need to
again.
say that.
That's already done.
That's over. Right
That's
there, my brother
pre-recorded.
from another mother, the one and only.
Comedian Eddie Pence.
Eddie,
also
the
Mangs
comedian.
Mang.
Mangs Mang. I would call
Mangs
you
Mang?
a lover.
Mangs Mang
I would
Mang?
call you a Mangs Mang. Yeah, I would call you a Mangs Mang. This is the Ramble podcast, the world's podcast, is what we are affectionately.
World's #1 podcast,
The
I
world's
think.
number
That was
one,
the
I
latest
think
numbers
so,
that came
yeah.
in.
We're fucking savage, bro.
Savage, bro.
This podcast is fucking savage, bro.
You should listen to this. It's like getting goat protein, bro.
Fucking
watching the show. It's like eating
it's fucking
live
crazy
goats.
how fast cheetahs are, bro. Jamie, look that up. Are cheetahs fast? Bro, that's fucking crazy, bro. Anyway, this is us. This is our podcast. This is what we do. We want to thank you all for listening. Subscribe to The Ramble. 5-star rating, positive text review, all that good shit. If you don't do that, we're going to think you're a chump. You can email us at ramble@theramblepod.com. That's our
Do all
email
that.
address. We also are on Instagram at Podcast Ramble. We're on YouTube at The Ramble Tube. You can see our lovely faces. We have merch on our TeePublic page. Go buy all that good shit. Eddie and I are stand-up comedians. We have comedy albums out you can go stream. We have comedy specials you can go watch. I stream video games, Retro Rocha on Kick and Twitch, and just my name on YouTube. That's where my latest 1-hour special is on my YouTube on my YouTube channel. Eddie, where's your special at? The unspecial.
Amazon Prime.
There we go. So you go do all of our shit. And today, Ramble Radios. Really, it's anything goes, Eddie. This is what the Ramble we are. I don't know how we could be more elated. Is that a way to put it? I don't know how we could be more excited.
Erect?
We're very erect. We're both extremely erect.
Turgid. We're very turgid
and erect. And a special guest. This is I have to be honest. I finished Silent Hill 2. We talked about this.
Yeah.
And I've never felt
The RFK Jr. story.
The RFK, it really is an RFK Jr. simulator. I didn't realize it until I was like 90% of this motherfucker's RFK Jr. and you're just living out his shame. That's what this fucking game is. It's an RFK Jr. simulator. And thank you for reminding me, Eddie. And
you're welcome.
And I was fortunate enough years ago in my travels in comedy, and you even before that, to have met.
Yeah, I met him in 2000. Here's the picture of the roster.
Look
from
at this.
Seattle's 2010, and then
what?
Whoa!
Hey,
look at that.
He is.
Mike Drucker. There he is.
Drucker, the one and only.
There he is.
Oh man, with hair and everything back then. What a time to be alive,
man. I'm with you. A comedian, writer.
Look at that.
Brilliant person all around.
Look at that handsome old headshot that I wish I still could do.
One of the funniest. One of the best follows on social media, no matter what your social media of choice is. Mike Drucker, right? We're so happy to have you. You wrote a book on Silent Hill 2, which I did. I read, Mike, and I loved it. And it was funny. Like, I think subconsciously, I read that book a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Right? When it had, because it's not that old. It came out like what?
2021. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I read it right when it came out. And I knew nothing of Silent Hill, not a thing. And I think I subconsciously blocked the spoilers that you gave in the book, right? And I just started thinking, I got to play this game. This game sounds fascinating. Like this game. And then I play it. And first off, please tell the fine folk where they can find your book on Silent Hill 2. Let's
Sure.
start with that.
If you want to get the Silent Hill 2 book, you can get it physical. I think you can get it digitally off Amazon, and you can get it physical and digital off bossfightbooks.com. If you just search Silent Hill 2 and Mike Drucker, you'll come up with the book, I think.
It's so good. And do you mind if before we talk, let's start with Silent Hill? Like, let's
Sure.
just go. Like, I had, now you played the whole series. So
Yeah.
and as all the listeners, and I apologize to for repeating this, but I've never talked to you about this. We talked video games the one time we met, but
Yeah.
I never dove into, and feel free to mock me. I missed the boat on everything that wasn't Nintendo up until about so here's what it started. So I had this weird Crips and Bloods shit with Nintendo. Like, I was like, fuck Sega, right? Like, I want nothing to do with it. I'm not thinking maybe I could just save up, or I don't know, ask my mom for a Genesis too, right?
Yeah.
Like, nah, fuck it. I'm Nintendo. Fuck
There's
Sega.
no reason behind what you were doing.
There was no
There's no reason.
They didn't know you were
There's
doing
no
this to them.
reason for your
They didn't
prejudice against one
then,
game
like,
console versus the other. There's no
right,
reason for your
what do I
prejudice.
get? And then
I bounced
PS1.
around. I was Nintendo. I was Sega.
Right.
ColecoVision.
I started Coleco, but then when Nintendo,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
again, like the Atari crash.
I
was
wanted
like,
a TurboGrafx. I could never get it.
Oh, I fuck that. Fuck bonk. See, there I am. Look here. You're going to hear me right now.
You're already
yes,
mad.
Yes, they had Rondo of Blood. Yes, that's probably the best Castlevania game ever fucking made. But I only found this out until later. So I was that guy who, like, went after the crash, the Atari crash, which I always looked at it as the video game version of the Buddy Holly, Richie Valens plane crash. It killed video games,
Yeah.
and then the Beatles on Ed Sullivan with Super Mario Brothers at home. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit. So and because of Legend of Zelda, I was all Nintendo. I felt like I was betraying them. And it wasn't until the fucking Xbox, Mike, Xbox, when I saw an ad for Knights of the Old Republic, and I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. And then I was like, I'm just going to get an Xbox and that's it. And then I had a buddy who ran a GameStop. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I had a buddy I went to high school with. He managed a GameStop. And I walk in and now I'm looking for Xbox games. And then I look and there's this PS2 running a demo of the first God of War. And
You're like, motherfucker.
And he goes, I can get you one for super cheap. And I'm like, fuck.
Fine.
So right, but
So you're like that guy or that girl that like dates one dude in high school, and then she gets to college. She's like, oh, and then just takes all the dick.
Yeah.
all the I was just you give me everything.
Yeah.
Give it to me all, baby. Are
You're
you
just
kidding? Oh,
taking all of it.
oh, this is really gonna piss off my racist dad. Give me more of
Yep.
this. Yes, that was me. And so dude, I completely like the Silent Hill games. I had just and I remember somebody saying I'd asked about it once I got the PS2s, and I remember specifically picking up Silent Hill 2 because it was a used copy. This was before it was like $1,000 to own the physical edition of the game. And I was like, how's this? And it wasn't my buddy, but one of you goes, hey, it's kind of weird. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just wrote it off. I wrote it off. And then, so I pick up your book and I'm like, I should have never written this thing off. Now, please tell us your experience, your story. How did Silent Hill come into your world? And what was it about Silent Hill 2 that made you go, fuck, I got to write a book about this thing?
Well, yeah, I think I played the first Silent Hill when I was in high school. I think it either came out when I was in middle school or when I was in high school, but I played it in high school. And I just remember my friends being like, you got to play this game. And I was like, well, I played Resident Evil. Like, I don't need another Resident Evil knockoff. Because at that time, anything that was sort of survival horror was seen as like a Resident Evil clone. And they were like, no, you're not like a special forces agent. You're just a regular dude who gets tired. And I was like, oh, that actually sounds interesting. Because, like, you had other games that were, like, again, different versions of, like, stars versus different versions of monsters. Whereas, Harry Mason is just a guy who lost his daughter. So I played it, and it really got under my skin. It's just such a creepy game. It's not like, because back then, especially in the when Resident Evil was just getting big, it was a lot of like slow moving stuff.
Yes.
A lot of the same sort of different versions of zombies. And then you get to Silent Hill and you have like within the first few minutes, a thing flying through the window, little childlike things, scares that like are sort of like not joke scares, but kind of like, false scares, which other games hadn't really been doing that well up to that point.
Yeah.
And I just remember it being like, oh, this is like the scariest game I've ever played. And so when they announced 2, I was like, definitely, I'm going to definitely play 2. And 2 is such a different game than 1, pacing wise and kind of mood wise, that it really struck me that like even when I played it in late high school, early college, it struck me like how much thought had gone into it. Like I think it was one of the first times I'd played a game and really thought like, oh, they're really trying to do something here. I didn't like just think that the graphics were cool or it was fun to play. Like maybe it sort of dovetailed with when I was first starting to like get into academics a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was really a moment when I was like, oh, this is the game developer who's trying to do something.
That's I will, and I know it's been kind of beaten to death, but and friend of the Ramble, Tom Bissell has really was one of the first guys I remember making that case. Like, this is art. Video games are art. And he does a fantastic job of selling that. And my first thought of that, and feel free to laugh at me, but it was Link to the Past, and it was just the scene where Link finds the Master Sword in the woods. That cutscene, for me, I thought this feels like I'm watching a myth come to life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like and it really was like there's something deeper here. But I'm with you 1,000%. And it wasn't until I played Silent Hill 2, this remake, that I realized. But I think this was the first like Tarkovsky video game. Like this is like the first video game from like a Kurosawa. You know what I mean? Like this is like holy shit. Like this is deep. Like this isn't. It goes. This is like high art. You know what I mean? Like that's how I felt playing it. And
it's a different kind of deep than you're used to. Like, obviously like there are things like, the opera scene in Final Fantasy VI or,
right. Well, fantastic.
Yeah. Aerith scene in Final Fantasy VII. Yeah. But I think like, again, like this is the first time I'd played a game that was like focused on just a dude's mental health and personal problems. And saying personal problems is kind of reducing what happens in it, but like it wasn't like he's not there to save the world. He's not there to stop like a giant threat. There's no virus outbreak he has to prevent.
Make America healthy again.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But like, even in like GTA, it was kind of like you gotta like control the city. You gotta like do all these missions in the city. Whereas Silent Hill 2 felt like, here's a couple characters that are really going through shit, and you're gonna find out what it is. And a couple of them, like Angela and Eddie, aren't not you, Eddie, the fat Eddie, Fat Eddie. I'm gonna call him Fat Eddie.
Skinny Eddie. Do you know on my, because I streamed the game on when I called Eddie young, what's his face, Bannon. He looks like a young Steve.
Oh, he does look like a young Steve Bannon. Yeah,
that's what I called Eddie. Yeah, young Steve Bannon. So yeah, Angela and dude is. I'm going to say this, and come at me, viewers, listeners. I'm not afraid. Angela, I think, is one of the most tragic video game characters I've ever encountered. And that was the most heartbreaking. It was just, like her scenes shook me. And someone who has, fortunately never had to deal with the trauma that she had to deal with in my life. And I think that's how it's brilliant storytelling, is because even though it's like I've thankfully never had to deal with that, watching it, I felt every ounce of her pain. It was like, oh God. And then especially the boss fight against her father, when it's just a demonic bed. It's like, oh God, at first I was like, holy shit, what is this? And then I was just like, oh my God, she was abused by her dad, and the villain, her boss fight is just that representation of this fucking horrific, Hieronymus Bosch looking creature that's just also a bed coming at you, and it's like, oh god, like, and then to think that like and that's why I think she's the most tragic, because like she represents that like a bed is usually 99.9% of the time the safest thing you can imagine or think of or feel comfortable in, and that is her biggest nightmare. It was like, fuck, it was, oh god. And and I thought one of them, and I was going to ask you, in the PS2 game, when you, before the boss fight with young Steve Bannon, as I'll give Eddie a break here, in the boss fight with young Steve Bannon, I thought one of the most fascinating things was how there was just like 8 of those dudes murdered, of the same guy, the same corpse. Is that in the PS2 game? Is that in the original game? Like, is there that room? I thought, oh my god, like, are they just in limbo? Are they just repeating this shit? Like, it was, oh god.
You know what? I honestly, I mean, I believe so. Mm-hmm. It's been since I wrote the book. It's been like 3 years since I've played the game.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure he says like, Eddie, you can't just kill people. Right. And Eddie's like, I'm a nerd. I'm angry.
Have you played the remake?
I did play the remake, though. I did play the
remake. What did you think? As someone who obviously loved it, did they do a good job? Were you like, no, this is sacrilege? Was it?
I really liked it. I mean, I thought of it almost like the way, I think the best way to think about it is almost like when you look at like, the American remake of The Grudge or The Ring. Right, like, they're both good. Yeah. I still prefer the PS2 version / PC / Xbox, yada, yada, yada. Just because I think like some of the fixed camera angles make it a little spookier.
Oh, yeah.
I also feel like, I think my biggest criticism probably of the remake is that the mannequin enemy is way, way overused. And you get to a point where the jump scares with that specific enemy, you're like, I know there's going to be one here. I just have to pivot around the corner because I know how this room is built.
Yes, this thing's coming. Like, come on. Yeah, that's very true.
But I liked it a lot. So I like the PS2 version more, but it's not like I want this in the garbage because I like the other one more. It's more like this is a very, very good remake of one of the best games ever made.
That is now my take on Silent Hill 2. Like, I went from like putting it down because a guy said, oh, it was weird. And now I'm like, this is up there with, this is for me, like, I mean, I think it's top 5 for me. Like, I really think that like it's the most recent Zelda, it's Elden Ring, it's probably Chrono Trigger, and it's this. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
I do.
Like, I'm telling Eddie, you get like, I feel bad. It's probably like, oh, play it, but I know it's. How old's Colton now? Your son? He's what, 15?
15.
I don't know. That might be too much for a 15. It's so.
It depends on what he likes already. If he's already into like. If he's already into a little bit of horror, he's fine. Yeah. But if like he's
not horror. He loves Red Dead Redemption. He loves Grand Theft Auto. Like, he's in that stage. So,
and it might be like
horror stuff.
You mentioned it, in 2001, someone being like, it's weird. It is a weird game.
Yes.
And so I can imagine like a lot of people in 2001 being like, all right, a horror game, load it up, blast them up. And then like being like, wait a minute, it takes me like 20 minutes to get to an enemy. Right. I have to walk through like a forest and talk to a woman first. What is going on with this slow ass game?
I want
to
shoot something.
Right, exactly.
I made a joke about how like I didn't realize, so when I got to the bowling alley in the remake, there was like a flag or something that was covering up something. And a viewer who had played the PS2 game was like, oh, there's a combination for that somewhere, right? And I was like, oh, okay. And I spent like an hour wandering the bowling alley. And he goes, oh, never mind. It's in New Game Plus. And I was like, New Game Plus? I'm not going to go through this shit again. You know what I mean? Like, as much as I loved it, I got to watch this guy deal with murdering his wife, like, a whole nother time. Like, spoiler. Eddie, that's what happens. He killed, like, this whole game is basic. It feels like.
I think I figured that out when you first told me about it.
Yeah. Like,
I was like, hey, this guy just killed his wife and he's dealing with it.
And it was, and let me tell you something. This game hit me. I've never been hit on a personal level by a video game, of course, because
you want to kill Andrea all the time, and it's just making you think this is.
But it was me personally, like someone who is in the middle of a fight against stage 4 cancer. Who, I mean, I was I was given a death sentence 2 years ago, and knock on wood, there's barely any cancer left in me right now. Like it's still, like
Good.
But like, thank you, my fiance, she's been everything, and that letter that his wife leaves him at the end, I cried. Because I was like, that's how when she basically apologizes for what she put him through with her cancer fight and all that, and was like feeling like, I'm sorry. I was just like, I felt every single thing that she has felt. And it was just, I was like, God, did the person who write this, they must have gone through, you know what I mean? Like it was so well. I was like, fuck me. And I remember my fiance, she was asleep, but I just woke up and I gave her just a big hug. And I was like, I love you. Thanks for everything. It really affected me. Like it was so well done. And that fucking motherfucker, like once I started piecing it together that he'd killed her, I was like, let him die. What do I give a shit? Let this mannequin kill this fucking asshole. Like, what do I care? Like but I mean, in his very, very weak defense, do you think he was trying to do a mercy? Is that what do you think he was trying to do? That's what I'm trying to, wrap my head around.
I think, well, first of all, depending on which ending you get, like your conversation changes a little bit. So if you get the absolute best ending, your conversation that you have, you sort of have like a ghostly conversation with Mary, depending on the ending. And that one, the conversation kind of leans towards it being a mercy killing. Right. I think sort of if you want to go with like a meta narrative of the game itself, it's the way that you sort of like justify things to yourself at certain times. Because it's very easy to do something and be like, no, there's a mercy killing. But also, I'm annoyed with her yelling at me. Because you see her screaming at him in the game. You hear her mocking him. You hear her sending him out of the room angrily. And you hear that, she told other people he hated her. And so you have all these reasons in the game. And so I think a lot of it is also on, the way we tell ourselves why we do something that might be fucked up. Whether it's hurting someone or lying to someone or cheating or something. It's sort of like, well, just here's why I did it. Done. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I've heard there's an ending where the girl who is like the sexy version of Mary, I forgot her
Maria,
name.
Maria.
Duh. I heard there's an ending where James leaves with her. Is that right?
Yes. But at the end of that ending, she starts coughing. So at the end of that ending, we're supposed to believe that she's going to go through the same thing Mary did. Yeah.
Fuck, that's and the little girl. What was the little girl's name? I forgot.
Oh,
the little girl. She's a great character.
She's such a good character. My brain is
Tiffany?
so blank right
Tiffany?
now. Yeah, we're gonna go with Tiffany.
Tiffany.
I'm gonna be so mad because I'm gonna be like, I have spent so much time on this. It's not Sarah.
Shit.
Clarice.
My brain keeps saying Julia, and I'm like, it's not Julia. Stop it, brain. Stop it.
What if
Florence.
What if they ruined Silent Hill 2 and in the remake they named her Loquisha and they just had that guy who played Loquisha in the movie do the voice for the little girl? There's like, we're gonna make the worst thing. But that little girl though, what I'm still trying to figure out, and maybe there's an ending that explains it, but I thought either she's just Mary as a child, or was Mary pregnant and they didn't know, and that was a daughter they were gonna have. I can't like, but she is such a fascinating character. Like, I mean, because she clearly knows James is a piece of shit. Yeah, and she has no problem treating him as such. Like it's just, oh God, and his pyramid head, is he James? Is that James? Is that just James's guilt made real? Is that like, I wondered about, is that his shame just come to, because every time you see him, he's like doing awful shit to the nurses before he's like, oh, I got to go fuck this guy up. Like, it's, oh God, it's so, anyway, your book really was just like, it's a must read. Thank you. Yeah. Even if you've never played the game, if this sounds interesting, go read Mike's book. And I'm a testament to having read the book and then played the game, and it didn't. I loved every second of it. It was
also short. It's a short book. If anyone's listening, it's short.
It's almost a pamphlet.
It's almost a pamphlet. It's almost a pamphlet, and I still get paid if you buy one. So that's a win-win for both of us.
Come on. Like it was. I just was like. Yeah, I had to talk to you because I was like, man, I got to talk to Drucker about this, because when I finished the game, I was like, fuck, this was a masterpiece. Like this was nothing short of just an absolute. Man, and again, it's as far as RFK Jr. simulators. It's
Top 2 or 3.
Top 2
easily.
or 3 of just like
RFK
man,
Jr. Simulator.
This is how you be. And now also, Mike, you have a new book, correct?
Yeah. Yep. It's called Good Game No Rematch. It comes out in April.
Look at now. What prompted this? If you can you tell us what it's about? Is
Sure.
This like,
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It is basically a book of like comedy stories about my life through the lens of video games. So kind of like if I had done 8 hours of stand up about video games, this is basically what I would have done. If I had done like 6 one-man shows about video games, this is basically it.
That's great.
So there's maybe like one chapter that's very emotional. But other than that, they're all like comedy chapters. And yeah, so I've had the idea for it a little while. I kicked it around, and then at the start of the writer's strike in 2023, I was like, well, I can't do any guild writing, but book writing is not covered under the guild, so I'm allowed to pitch a book.
Yeah.
And so it's not scabbing. So I was like, okay, if I can't work on normal writing, I will put together this book pitch, and I pitched it, and luckily I sold it. And
it's great. Congrats, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Then beginning of last year is when it sort of got like the first draft done, and then the past year has been like drafting it, going through notes, fixing things, copy editing, a couple legal notes.
When you write a book, is it the same as stand-up where, let's say you've done a joke on television or on a special and it's done?
Yeah.
Right? Do you find yourself going, fuck, I kind of want to add this to this chapter? Or are you able to just go, you know what? I finished it. It's done. I'm going to walk away.
It depends on how big the joke is. Like if it's like like an entire bit, sure. But if it's like a turn of phrase or a dumb one-off, like, offhanded joke, that I'm kind of like, I mean, even in editing this book, there were times when I was reading it when I was like, oh, I've done the same joke 3 times, just in like, 45 pages apart. So I forgot about it. And so really a lot of the rewriting of this book was being like, well, I've used that joke I've said the same bit. I've made fun of myself the same way. To the point where it's like the exact same phrasing where like I plagiarize myself so hard. It definitely happens. I think it is a bit though, like if some of this stuff was in another book, I probably wouldn't do it. But like there's one or two, I think like smaller jokes that I might have used in like a post about games once or something. But I'd say like 99.9% of it's new.
That's great. That's awesome, man. And what is now we're gonna put you on the spot. I'm gonna do this. Favorite? Do you have a favorite video game ever, or does that?
It's tough because I have like a list of my favorite games ever, but then there are games like Slay the Spire, which I've put so much time into that's never on the list, but I've also probably put more time into it than some of the games on my list.
Right. Wow, that's interesting.
So outside of Silent Hill 2, I'd probably say Planescape Torment, probably Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which I know
great was that?
It was. I liked it more than Breath of the Wild. I know some people are still Breath of the Wild people.
What the fuck is wrong with this shit?
But I liked it. Yeah.
It was. Let me tell you, it was and I didn't. Okay, I kind of saw it coming. Eddie, I'm sorry, buddy. Spoilers. I'm sorry.
You already spoiled this for me.
Oh, I did.
You've already spoiled this for me.
I was like, first of all, Tears of the Kingdom, to me, do you know why it's my favorite? Is because it's the first game that actually is the Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
It is her legend in this, right? It is because, holy shit, the sacrifice she makes. And I thought one of the greatest moments I've ever experienced in a game is in the final battle with Ganon, when he just like, I fuck this, I'm losing, and he just fucking turns himself into a dragon, and I'm like, and then she just comes in and is like, nah, motherfucker. I was like, oh god, this is incredible. Like, I was just like, oh, it was a fucking. I don't know if I want them to do a third one. I'm like, just leave this world alone now. Like, go to another Zelda. Like, it was so perfect and so well done. Like that, that was. And can we talk? And I'm sorry to do this to your kid, Eddie, but I don't know, Mike. I saw a tweet of yours, post of yours, and I'm going to hold you to this. I believe about Red Dead. What's the most recent one? The most recent Red Dead game?
2.
Where you said, y'all motherfuckers gave 10s to a game where you have to tap X to run or something like that. I couldn't get into it. I don't know what it is. I loved the first one. The first one I thought was incredible. The second one, the only scene I liked is when he gets drunk with his buddy at the saloon and they have the drunken, like, you're just like tripping and you have the bar fight. I thought, okay, this is great. Everything else, I'm like, man, this is just the same fucking shit over and over and over and over and over again. I couldn't get into it. It was weird.
I mean, I just didn't. I mean, I liked it. I didn't finish it.
Right. Yeah.
Red Dead 2 for me was one of those games it's a little bit like The Godfather, where I can kind of appreciate why it's good, but it's not something that really I enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly capable of appreciating why people love it, what makes it good. So I don't think I don't think The Godfather is a bad movie. I also know that I don't like The Godfather, and I can hold those two thoughts at once.
What about Godfather 2? Do you go there?
And so I think I kind of have that. What?
So what about Godfather 2? Does that get any love?
Honestly, I like Godfather 2 more than 1. When my dad forced me to watch him as a kid, I feel like, 2's more interesting.
Well, because 2, I get your point, and I think this is probably why Eddie doesn't watch Breaking Bad. I've been trying to beg him to watch Breaking Bad, but Eddie's like, yeah.
I watched a season and a half, and I don't care.
Exactly though.
I don't fucking care.
That's how I feel about the mob.
At the same time, you understand why it has the hype it does, right?
Yes.
Eddie?
It's great acting.
Yes. See, that's right.
But to me, I think the storytelling gets a little repetitive, even in season 1 and early season 2. I'm like, okay, do something else.
I'm telling Eddie, once you get to Gus, that's the.
Yeah, but I got to the end of season 1, and I was like, I don't care if there's a season 2. Like, I didn't give a shit.
So why?
And to me, like, if you can't hook me after 1 season, like, why do I want to go back for 2?
And that's
makes
interesting
sense
about The Godfather, because The Godfather 2, I think, is far better, and it's because of Fredo. I think. Yeah. I think that the Fredo arc in that is one of the most heartbreaking scenes in any movie is his "I'm smart" monologue. Like, I'm not stupid, Mikey. You're like, oh Jesus, poor motherfucker.
You're so you're fucked, dude. This is both sad and I know how fucked you are in this moment.
You know what's gonna happen to this guy.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. It's like, that's interesting. What are you playing right now? Any game you're loving right now that?
I got it last year, but I never played it. But I'm going back to Persona 3 Reload. I played Metaphor, Refantasio, and I really enjoyed it.
Now, and I fucking love it.
I loved it. But after that, I was like, I need a little more of that juice, and so I never played Persona 3, so I went to Persona 3.
How is it?
It is really good. I mean, Persona 5 is so good that going back to an older one, even a remake of one, you're like, wait a minute, this seems simpler. This doesn't seem as like, That said, once you get into it, it's really, really good. And it's definitely hooked me. Like, I've got about, I think, like 30 something hours into it at this point.
Great.
So I've crested the wave of, am I going to finish this, into I'm probably going to finish this, but it's going to annoy me. Like, if it takes long.
Yeah. Now with the I've never played a Persona game.
Yeah.
Am I fucked if I start with 5? Because everybody says 5 is great. Like, am I gonna be like, who are these people? Who's this guy? Like, no.
No, they're all. They're a bit like Final Fantasy, where they all have their own stories. Right. They all take place on Earth in different Japanese cities, but they aren't connected in any way. In fact, the stories would conflict with each other if they were.
Sure.
So it's basically like it has a few common elements. It's always about teens in high school, and it always has like the sort of same personas, which are almost like, imagine a combination of a job in Final Fantasy and a summon in Final Fantasy. Like, imagine if those two were kind of the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
And so you have, like, and there's hundreds of them, almost like Pokemon. So it's kind of like you have all those in the background where you can get them different ways. And there's, like, 1 or 2 creepy characters that appear. But again, they're not narratively related. You're more like, oh, there's that one creepy guy. He's back.
Oh, Matt Gates is here trying to Venmo us. All right. Okay, he's back. He's the Matt Gates mini boss.
But you won't miss anything. And if you liked Metaphor, you'll like Persona 5 probably.
Metaphor's so fucking good.
The only downside is the Persona games, because it's high school related, there's sometimes 1 or 2 plot threads that you could kind of be like, I don't know if a teen should be interested in a teacher, but like, it's not showing you anything on screen. It is not. you know, and they try to like play it off being like, well, it's a boy and it's a woman teacher, so it's fun. You know, it kind of like leans into that a little, like that old drive time radio trope.
That's hilarious.
But other than that, like as long as you can put, because I know some people who have been turned off by that, but if you can look past that hiccup, you could say, it's very good. And you don't have to pursue those relationships. It's just when they start to form, you're like, oh, okay, I see what's happening. On the other hand, like as an adult, there's part of me that's like, do I want to just romance the adult though? Like I feel weird if I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go for that 16-year-old. You're really torn. You know,
that's great. I'm trying to think like. I think I had definitely had a crush on my drama teacher in high school. She was I definitely had a crush on her. That was about it. I think that was. I also never entertained the idea of. My thought was like, boy, I sure hope to have a girlfriend who's like her one day. You know what I mean? Like it was more of that, not like sure.
On the flip side, Persona 3, and this isn't really spoiling anything because it's a side character who doesn't matter, but there's like a whole side story about like a kid who's like bragging to you that he's dating a teacher, and at first you're like, what's going on? And then you find out towards the end of his like subplot that like he kind of imagined it, and she like eventually figured out that he thought they were dating, and was like
hilarious.
Like it was essentially like him deluding himself because she was willing to tutor him after school, but the way he talked about it was very like, yeah, me and her, we're getting pretty serious. And then, like, when you get to the end of it, you're like, okay, at least the game is aware that some people are ridiculous.
Well, I kind of like that they're kind of taking a shot at the origins of the delusional male ego.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they're kind of like, this fucking idiot really thinks that this teacher's in love with him. That buddy.
No, she's just willing to work with you.
Yeah, she just wants to help you get an A, you fucking idiot. Like, that's all this is. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, first of all, Mike, the door's always open.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed being on here. I hope you enjoyed bullshitting with us. If you
because you're not going to enjoy what's coming.
You're not going to enjoy it. Yes, that is very true. I'm sorry to do this. First off, if you want to come back in April, to promote your please, we would love it. Come back. We'll talk. Eddie knows we can always talk video games. You're a little younger than us, so real quick, what was your like? For us, it's Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, Transformers was our kind of, right? Thundercats, Eddie, is that the big four?
Thundercats, yeah.
Would that be the big four? Mask, if there's a big five, we have to throw Mask.
And what were the humanoid bug sectoids? Sectors?
The Inhumanoids. Right?
No, the Sectors or whatever they were
Sectors,
called.
Those are fucking great. Sectors. They
had like bug eyes, but they were people.
They were fucking great. That line was fucking sick. That was
insane.
They were like, okay, I made those guys. I had a few adventures where they were like Globulus's bosses.
Yeah,
they were the head of Cobra.
They were above
in a few. Right. So
they were.
They were the. I remember
they were like the board of directors of
Cobra Law.
Of Cobra Law.
What was your cartoon action figure first real love?
I think Ninja Turtles. I think I'm of that specific age where Ninja Turtles hit perfectly. G.I. Joe also had a lot of overlap with that era, definitely also G.I. Joe.
See, Ninja Turtles like hit right after I got past that threshold.
Right.
Like, I'm just right on I just missed it.
And Eddie's a little bit older than me, so I was right at so I caught the wave of the Ninja Turtles. I remember. So, who was your favorite? I was always a Raphael guy because he was the asshole. That's what
I think. Just because I was a little kid, I was like Michelangelo because the name was similar. So I was like, oh, that's me.
Yeah,
even though I'm definitely like a Donatello. But like as a kid, you're like, that's my name. It's me.
Right. Yeah, fuck it. But I was enough. The Ninja Turtles hit my era enough that we definitely had in high school several. Leonardo versus Highlander. Who comes out? You know what I mean? And I always went Leonardo. I think.
Yeah, it's Leonardo. It's definitely Leonardo. It's not
like
Highlander.
No fucking question. Leonardo.
Some Scottish guy.
Leonardo. I say Leonardo handles his own against Snake Eyes. I don't know. I'm
think
not
so.
worried.
Wow.
I'm not worried. I think I mean I think that's the match. That's the fight of the century right there. Leonardo Snake Eyes. You put those two in a cage match. Hey, I don't. But it's pro wrestling ever do anything for you when you were younger?
Weirdly, no. I wish it had because I feel like someone who like doesn't see a color everyone else does. Where I'm just like again, like, sort of like, I know everyone loves this. I know why they love it. It just never clicked with me.
That's like
and all
Breaking
of my
Bad for
friends
me.
liked it. Yeah,
That's Breaking Bad for me.
And Godfather too. That's I love it. That's great.
I'm I grew up not being a great man, I think, is the way things went.
What about comic books? Were you into comic books?
Yeah, definitely into comic books,
What was
DC,
your-
Marvel. I was lucky in that both of my parents, when they were kids, they liked comics. My mom was
Yeah.
super into
Oh,
Richie
that's
Rich and
great.
Casper and Wendy the Witch. My dad was into Marvel stuff. So as a kid, I was lucky that both parents were like, knew that comics had worth. And so not just like Marvel and DC, but I'd get, like, you know, movie spin-off comics. Like when
Yeah.
Jurassic Park came off, I got like the Jurassic Park comics, a lot of Bucky O'Hare. So kind of just like
fantastic.
not whatever I wanted, but it was very eclectic.
Well, we because we definitely are big marks, especially the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I kind of feel that because I just grew up loving all this, so that's why like the final event, the Avengers Endgame, that I was like, this is what I did with my action figures every fucking day.
The last hour of Endgame is what you did with your toys.
This
so
is
good.
This is all I've wanted to see. So we're very forgiving of that world. It's funny.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even though I'm hoping DC gets their head out of their asses because those three characters especially, they deserve to be in like Captain America, Winter Soldier level films every time, right? Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman have no business being in anything other than something, and they fuck it up every time recently. So hopefully, but yeah, like that's great. Well, dude, yeah, we'd love to have you back to bullshit, to talk geek stuff. We'll definitely have you back in April if you'd like, to promote the book, remind everybody about it. And before we go, yes, like Eddie said,
we have contractual obligations.
if Eddie can, if you want to ask Skeletor, by all means, whatever you
Anything,
want to ask
nothing's
him,
off the table for Skeletor.
Yeah, he's
What do you ask him? What he eats to keep his body that way?
okay. Eddie,
Like, what kind of diet do you need to have to stay like Skeletor thin?
Well, Mike, that's a wonderful question, and I'm glad that you've asked me that. You know, a lot of people, so many people ask about the physique of the big S, you know, and it's a lot of what I do. It's somehow, it's not so much diet or exercise. It's what keeps me young, what keeps me fit is reveling in the looks of despair at all the parents of all the citizens of Eternia that I've slaughtered, and knowing they're never gonna get their son back, they're never gonna get their daughter back, they're never gonna see, you know, Grandma Susie anymore because she's busy getting railed by the big S. If you get what I'm saying, you know what I mean. So that, Mike, I think it's less diet and more of an emotional thing. Now. I'm sure you're wondering, my God, it's so many people that you've slaughtered, so many people you've brought pain to. Where do you hide all the bodies? I bet you. Go ahead, ask me, Mike. Where's there a place big enough in Eternia for you to hide all of these corpses and not get caught? Go ahead, ask. Go ahead, Mike. Just go ahead. Where's the place big enough? Go ahead.
Where is there a place big enough in all of
He-Man's
Eternia?
mother's pussy! Because it's so gigantic. That whore.
Okay. Sorry.
really sorry.
No, I understand.
Sorry.
I understand. He sponsors
Contractually
it.
We
obligated.
just don't
Yeah.
know what he's gonna do.
He spends a lot of money on this podcast.
It always seems to come back to He-Man's mother's pussy, though.
It
That
does
always
come back
seems
to
to be
He-Man's
the.
mother's pussy
He's the
every
only person
time.
that picks the 10,000 Patreon slot.
Yeah. What can we do? How do we say no? How
He
do
keeps
we
the lights on.
He keeps the lights. And he does. He does. Like Eddie said, he just somehow always brings it back to He-Man's mother's. We think something bad. Like we think he was dumped. That's our. We're kind of. We don't
She
want
did
to
something to him.
Yeah.
She did
We
something to
think
him.
there was some. Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah,
you know,
they worked together, and he called her
it's-
his like work wife and work husband.
Yeah.
But then he like hit on her, and she was like, "No, that's not what this was about."
That's not what this is. Because he has an irrational amount of hatred.
Anger and yes,
Anger.
Anger. It's
Towards her.
It's very very weird and.
Oh, I don't feel anything. Could you try again? Oh, it's because her pussy's so big.
There it is. He just comes in whenever he wants. Okay. Well, that a little bit more has been lifted, so apparently
Yeah.
they did hook. I don't
guess.
know. Mike, we're not going to make you follow Skeletor.
No.
We're not going to make you follow that. We're not going to make you crawl out of that. So we have a sometimes third host, Cody Viafana, a movie critic who comes on. Please, everybody, follow the Cinesnob. Let's get Cody on Rotten Tomatoes, the Cinesnob podcast. Eddie,
Right, that Loquisha wrong.
yeah, fix. Can you believe this, Mike? Crocodile Dundee 3 on Rotten Tomatoes has a higher rating than Part 2. Now, they're both dreadfully bad, but Part 2
one is less
better.
dreadful than the other.
Come on, this is insane. We need to fix
That's
that, too.
insanity.
Which one's 3? Is that when he goes to L.A. or is that
Yes.
1? I forget.
That's
which
the
one is-
LA one.
LA.
Okay.
It's so I mean, child me is going to be devastated. I mean, they're all probably pretty
2 was a
shitty.
huge disappointment for me as a child. It
Yes,
ruined
2
sequels
was
for
a
me as a
massive
child.
one. 2 was but 1, looking back, probably isn't that great of a movie.
1
but
doesn't age well.
No.
Because he thinks the black guy's from a tribe. It's just
That's
kind
right
of.
off the
Oh,
bat,
that's-
like,
oh, God.
Shit. You're
And
like,
then
look
there's
at
the transphobia joke that
big
goes throughout the.
transphobia joke in it. Yep,
man.
it's like, oh God, Jesus. It's well anyway.
Doesn't
So
age quite well.
No, Eddie, where can all the fine folk find you?
You can hear me 5 days a week on Patreon.com, The Ralph Report. Tuesdays, Fridays, Ramble Radio. Wednesdays, Ramble Proper, all on the Podderation Network. And then on Fridays with Not Today with Jen Sturger.
You can hear me in the same Ramble places. You can find Eddie and Cody also on the Podderation Network. I do stream games, Twitch and Kick, Retro Rocha, just my name on YouTube. Follow us on all that good shit. Mike, before we get to you, I got to say one last thing. I have found myself vehemently disagreeing with the angry video game nerd guy. Like, I loved Castlevania 2. I played that. I just played the Silver Surfer NES game. That thing's fucking fun as shit. It's not even as hard as people say. That's it. I'm just saying. I'm doing like this weird like redemption. Like, nah, that fucking guy's full of shit.
You're trying to start
2
beef with the angry video
I'm starting
game
to beef
nerd.
with this motherfucker. Castlevania 2 is fucking great. I think Castlevania 2 is a great fucking game. Like I was getting like mad. There was another one too, Eddie. I forgot what was the other one. I was like, oh, the Friday the 13th game for the NES is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's actually a good game.
If you know what to do, it becomes an amazingly fun time. Anyway, so I just had to. I'm so excited to talk video games with Mike. I'm just doing all my video game shit. So, Mike, thank you for coming on, and please promote away. Where can everybody find you? Promote everything you got upcoming. Go for it, man.
Sure. You can find me online on most social medias, either at Mike Drucker or at Mike Drucker is Dead. I think I post more on Blue Sky at this moment, but you can still find me on Twitter, Instagram, yada, yada, yada. The Silent Hill 2 book is available now if you want to buy it. It's just Silent Hill 2 by Boss Fight Books. You can find it pretty easily. And Good Game No Rematch comes out April 1st. If you're interested, please pre-order it. It does help.
Nice.
It helps me, and it helps the publisher want to do more for me. So
yeah, go pre-order that now. And then,
please,
what helps you more as just on let's do it on the financial end? Can ebook or physical? Does it matter?
Does not matter.
Does not matter. Okay, great, sweet. All right, we'll get them out there. Go do all that, Mike. We can't thank you enough for being on our show. We're gonna play the theme song and then we're gonna say goodbye. So let's get this going. And thank you again for tuning in, y'all. We'll be back Wednesday with a regular Ramble, and then Friday we're gonna wrap up Skeleton Crew.
Ooh.
That's gonna be it. I thought a great show so far, the Star Wars Skeleton Crew. I couldn't believe. I was like, this has no business being this good, especially compared to how fucking awful Acolyte was. But there we go. That's our Star Wars talk. We will see y'all. Have a safe one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. So, Mike, thank you. Did you have a good time, Mike?
I did. That was great. Thank you.
Right.
We're just like, you know, Mike, you're a great writer. If lyrics come to your head,
and you want to write lyrics to this tune,
I mean, my God, we're not
free.
stopping. We, you know, it'd be. You don't have to do it now. I'm not asking.
no,
you
nothing
to
on the
do it.
spot. No,
This isn't
no,
like
put
an
some
improv
thought
game.
into it.
This isn't like an improv game. Like, all right, let's start writing lyrics to this song.
That would be the worst.
We got to get Eddie to play Silent Hill 2. It's so good, man. It is the downer, though. If there's ever a downer of a game.
And what do we need more now than downers?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a very good call. That's all right. Last beep, and that's it.